Hi Table Tennis Junkies. I talk about grips a lot in my videos, so I decided to put together a video to kind of describe each grip, each of the main grips, and maybe give some strengths and weaknesses and how to transition from serves or from forehand to backhand for each of those grips. So the first main grip that I recommend is the shake hands grip. It's the most common one in the world, and it's probably the most balanced grip as well. So what I do is for the shake hand grip is you kind of pretend like you're shaking hands with the paddle. So you're coming in, you're going to grab it like this. The index finger is going to be on this side. The thumb will just be down on the other side, and the other three fingers are this way. One of the advantages of the shake hands grip is that it covers the angles really well. Either the backhand, you can close it off or on the forehand, you can close it off real nice and easy. One of the big disadvantages is that you have the transition point in the middle. So generally, the middle is usually the best place to go for a shake hands player. So as a shake hands player, that's something you're going to really need to guard against and to protect is that middle ball. Moving on to pen holds, there are a couple different pen hold grips. One of them is the Japanese pen hold, where it's like you're holding a pen. Your index finger and your thumb are going to hold it on this side, and then your three other fingers are just going to be on the back there, like this. The way that the pen hold works, most players have a very strong forehand and a weak backhand. The reason is because it's very hard to cover the backhand with the pen hold grip. It's just kind of an awkward motion and movement and an angle. So that's one weakness. Another weakness with pen hold is the angles. It's hard to cover on the outside of the ball, but it doesn't really have any transition point. You can go backhands and then all the way through to the forehand. That transition point doesn't really exist. So in general, the angles are tough to cover. If someone is going to angle you, it's hard to cover those angles. But then the middle balls are much easier as a pen hold player. Then there's the Chinese pen hold, which is you hold the racket very similarly, but the back fingers, instead of being tucked in this way, you're going to hold it a little more this way. And what that does is with the forehand, you're going to hit this way, and then backhand, you're actually going to hit with the opposite side, similar to the shake hands. So normal pen hold is this way with the backhand, and there's no real transition point. This one has that transition because you're using your forehand this way, and then you're using your backhand this way. With the Chinese pen hold, you get a much better backhand, still a very good forehand, but you have that transition point similar to the shake hands, and also the angles are still a little bit tougher to handle, but not as bad as just normal pen hold. The last grip I want to show you is the C-Miller grip. It's not nearly as common, and this is more of a unique grip that I don't generally recommend, but it works well for some players. Basically what you do is you hold it similar to the shake hands grip, but you turn it in your hand a little bit this way. And what that does is you hit your forehand the same, but then when you transition to the backhand, you use the same side of the racket. So forehand, backhand, and generally people with this grip, they'll have like an anti-spin or long pips or something, kind of a weird rubber on the opposite side, and then they'll flip. So you'll have the forehand, and then they'll flip to do like a chisel block and then come back. So usually one side is very aggressive and the other side is more for blocking and changing the pace on the ball. No matter what grip you decide to choose, it's up to you, and each grip has some strengths and weaknesses. Most coaches will teach to use the shake hands grip, that first one, where you're using the forehand this way and backhand this way. It's definitely the most balanced. You can get good, strong power on the forehand and still have a good backhand with it. And as far as learning, it's probably the easiest to learn because most players play that way and most coaches teach that way. But if you have a good coach, it doesn't really matter which grip you use. If you want to use the pen hold or the Chinese pen hold works too. They're all good, but generally, if you're just starting out, I recommend the shake hands grip. That's probably the easiest one to just get started with. One of the most common questions I get asked about the grip is it okay to change my grip a little bit as I'm transitioning from forehand to backhand or backhand to forehand? And it's kind of a tough question to answer because you don't want to change it too much, but it's okay to change it a little bit. I do it in my game. A lot of the top players will change their grip a little bit. What I do for mine is I have on the forehand, I'm pretty tucked in here. And then backhand, I actually rotate it just a little bit in my hand. It's hard to kind of see that, but I just rotate it a little bit. So it's a little looser, and my hand kind of drops a little bit. So it's just kind of demonstrate that it's turned a little bit. I loosen my grip a little bit and I drop it just a tad. It's not much, it's very subtle. And what that does is it allows me to get a little bit more wrist on my backhand, and I don't really need that on my forehand because I have enough power on the forehand, and the wrist will add just a little more power to my backhand. Again, if you do any sort of change in your grip, just make it minimize it as much as possible, so that way you can change from backhand to forehand and it's not going to slow you down. One more thing I want to cover is the grip during the serve. So when you are serving, you want to add as much wrist action as possible. So a lot of times that'll require you to change your grip. The key on this is if you change your grip for the serve, make sure that it's not so extreme that you can't get back to your grip immediately after. If you're slow changing your grip for the next shot, it's going to be tough to get ready for the next ball, and it's going to slow you down on the point. So if you're going to change your grip, which I actually do recommend for the serve, make sure it's not too much that you can't get ready. If you like this video, please subscribe and put any questions you have in the comments. I'd love to hear from you, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.